Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 episode number 100 based on novel. So let's start. Morning, when Wang Donga opened her eyes, she was stunned to discover that she had slept from the previous day's evening to today's morning. She had not slept so sweetly in a very long time. Although she was still feeling a little fatigued, she felt much refreshed. She looked at the man beside her close up. He was still in a deep sleep, and didn't look like he was about to wake up anytime soon. His heartbeat was still very calm. Wang Donga carefully checked on his condition. After ascertaining that he was fine, she pecked his cheek and got up. After washing up, she began to help Hu Yuhao clean up. She washed him up before gently massaging his muscles. After that, she changed him into clean clothes. Hu Yuhao couldn't eat anything. Before Elder Xian left yesterday, he had left a bottle of pills behind. He had asked Wang Donga to feed Hu Yuhao. These pills had been created using more than 10 types of valuable ingredients, and would be sufficient to replenish his body. After Wang Donga retrieved the bottle of pills, she placed one of the pills into her mouth before kissing him, and transferred the medicinal fluid into his mouth with her tongue. Her face was red. For an inexperienced young lady like her, this was too embarrassing. However, there was a determined look in her eyes. As she thought of how Hu Yuhao was ready to give up his life for her, she put her embarrassment aside. "I'm his future wife, what's there to be shy about?" After finishing this, Wang Donga went out to eat. After eating, she returned to Hu Yuhao's side and entered deep meditation. She finally managed to enter deep meditation this time. She changed Hu Yuhao's clothes twice a day, fed him medicine and massaged him thrice a day. She also washed his body twice a day. When night fell, she stopped meditating and just slept beside him. Elder Wang came to check on Hu Yuhao twice a day, as promised. Hu Yuhao's physical condition seemed to be recovering faster than expected. The medicinal effect that was maintaining his life was very strong, and it lasted for a long time, too, enabling his internal injuries to heal quickly. Elder Wang told Wang Donga to talk more to Hu Yuhao so that he would wake up faster. Once he woke up, he could control some of his soul power, and his body would heal even more quickly. Night fell, and Wang Donga continued laying beside Hu Yuhao. She caressed his face and muttered into his eyes, "Yuhao, I'm Donga. I've seen the medicinal herb that you brought back. Where did you find out about my injury? Do I really have an internal injury? I didn't even know. Yuhao, I miss you so much. I really want to hear your voice. You'll get better. No matter what, I'll be by your side to take care and wait on you. Will you wake up? You've been sleeping for too long. As long as you wake up, I'll promise you anything. Even if you want to get intimate with me, I won't object to it. I'll let you hug me to sleep every night, okay? Isn't that what you've always wished for? From today onwards, I'll accompany you like that to sleep. I'm already your wife. This is my responsibility. In fact, do you know that I'm very willing to sleep with you? I feel especially safe when I sleep with you. I feel very comfortable. Yuhao, wake up. I really miss you. I really miss you." As she finished speaking, Wang Donga was already sobbing a little. She opened Hu Yuhao's mouth and looked at his throat. It was completely scarlet red, as if his flesh were squirming and growing. The medicinal herb Wang Chua had given him had a very strong healing effect on his injuries. Elder Wang had also commented that it was a miracle when he saw it. Perhaps the magical herb's strength could restore Hu Yuhao's voice. When Wang Donga saw Hu Yuhao's throat, she started wailing. He must be in a lot of pain. He was so deeply in love that he had swallowed boiling water so that he could spit out blood that wasn't frozen. Even Wang Donga didn't know when she fell asleep. When she was sleeping, her tear stains were still on her face. The days slowly passed. Wang Donga took good care of Hu Yuhao. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. Hu Yuhao was still sleeping. Hu Yuhao's injuries had already healed after 10 days. Even his burned hands and vocal cords had been restored. His heartbeat also became stronger. Everything was progressing well. The tournament was approaching, but Hu Yuhao hadn't awoken yet. Wang Donga was crying less and less these days. She became calmer as Hu Yuhao's body slowly recovered. She was content to wait on him every day. She would talk to him for at least an hour every day and gently called his name to wake him up. It was now only a month to the tournament. The rest of Shrek's 7 monsters were stepping up their preparations and cultivations. Without Hu Yuhao as their main control-type soul master, it was going to be an arduous task to become champions in this tournament. The inclusion of sects changed everything. They were going to meet much stronger opponents. Wang Chua also came to visit Hu Yuhao a few times. Wang Donga didn't stop her from doing so. On the contrary, she hosted her very passionately. Every time Wang Chua came, she didn't speak. She only stood by the bedside and looked at Hu Yuhao for a while before leaving silently. Wang Donga could see the sadness in her eyes. However, some things couldn't be shared. She pitied Wang Chua. But there was only one Hua Yuhao. He was her man. Another 5 days passed. Hua Yuhao had been back for half a month, and his injuries had already healed. Only the 2 waves of soul power were still conflicting in his body. Wang Donga didn't dare to use her soul power to help him recover. She was worried that it might be counter-effective. She would rather he recovered slowly than take a risk. Hua Yuhao had grown slightly fatter after lying down for the past 15 days. The medicinal effect was pretty good. Wang Donga fed him his medicine through her mouth every day before giving him some water. Hua Yuhao's body stayed in good condition under her care. Evening. It was time for her to speak to him again. Yuhao, did you know? I ate 2 buns tonight. So many, right? I'm afraid that I'll grow fat. Wang Donga lowered her head as she spoke and looked down at her slim waist. Today's canteen food was especially delicious. Don't worry, I'll take care of myself. For you, I won't harm my body anymore. When you wake up, I'll let you see a healthy donga. Will you be very happy because of this? I'll let you see a prettier donga. Wang Donga continued speaking with a smile on her face. Did you know? Sometimes I'm not in a rush for you to wake up. The past few days have been fruitful for me. I love waiting on you. You were the one taking care of me all this while. You were also the one who cleaned our dorm room. It's my turn now. I know you've sacrificed a lot for me over these few years. However, you didn't know I was a girl back then. You really are a fool. We were living together for such a long time, but you didn't realize. Come to think of it, I still want to mock you for that. Oh right, eldest senior and the rest have been cultivating tirelessly. However, everything is affected greatly because you're not around. Furthermore, I can't compete because you are in this state. I told eldest senior that I'd be staying behind with you, and he agreed to my request. We are all representing the Tang sect this time. Eldest senior said that Nana can be our first substitute. She's quite good. We can also make up our numbers by asking someone else from the sect. It would be great if you could wake up though. Even though you can't compete, everyone will still be in good spirits with your support. Oh, right. I haven't fed you your medicine. I'll talk to you after feeding you. Wang Donga retrieved a bottle and placed a pill into her mouth. As usual, she fed him through her mouth. She was used to it after half a month. She used the tip of her tongue to force Hua Yuhao's teeth open before pressing her tongue against his. It was easier that way. Everything progressed very smoothly as usual. However, she felt a slight touch on her tongue as she tried to pull it back. She was stunned for a moment. Following this, she understood what was going on and quickly hugged Hua Yuhao. She continued to reach her tongue in and touched the tip of his tongue again. Wang Donga was trembling slightly in agitation. Was he about to wake up? However, his tongue had stopped moving. Wang Donga didn't garner any reaction even though she used her tongue to touch the tip of his again. Was it a false feeling? Wang Donga was unconvinced. When she retracted her tongue, she looked slightly disappointed. She turned around and gently rubbed at the tears that flowed from her eyes. Yuhao, when are you going to wake up? At this point, a weak and hoarse voice sounded behind her. Again, kiss. Wang Donga's body stiffened. In the next instant, she turned around and saw a pair of dull eyes. However, those eyes were looking at her gently. Yuhao, you're finally awake. Wang Donga couldn't hide her agitation anymore. Even though had she told herself countless times not to cry when Yuhao woke up, she still couldn't control herself now that he was actually awake. She leapt onto Hua Yuhao and started wailing. She was worried and heartbroken at the same time. At this moment, her tears flowed uncontrollably. Hua Yuhao opened his eyes once again. He was still very, very tired. His injuries were too serious. Even though his external wounds had recovered, the conflicting origin energy and soul power in his body, as well as the blazing sunspring water, greatly influenced his condition. Wang Donga cried for 15 minutes, and her tears drenched the front of Hua Yuhao's shirt. She only stopped after that. When she lifted her head to look at Hua Yuhao again, she discovered that he had already shut his eyes, and she panicked. She quickly wiped her tears away and called, Yuhao, Yuhao, are you okay? Hua Yuhao struggled to open his eyes and forced a slight smile for her. I'm fine. You must stay true to your word. After a few minutes of rest, he felt slightly better. Wang Donga was stunned for a moment. What do you mean? Hua Yuhao smiled and said, you said that you were willing to do anything as long as I woke up. You even promised to sleep with me. It'll be like that forever. You must keep your word. Wang Donga broke into a laugh and said, you are in this state, but you still remember these things. Hua Yuhao also laughed. It concerns my happiness. I'm going to sleep a while more. As he spoke, he shut his eyes again. Wang Donga quickly lay down beside him. She caressed his chest lightly, and used her light-type soul power to absorb the tears from his shirt. When Hua Yuhao opened his eyes again, it was already the next morning. He was also much better now. Wang Donga was waiting on him as usual. When she washed his body, she started to feel embarrassed again. After all, It was a different matter when he was awake. She lowered her head and didn't dare to look at him. She rubbed his body gently. Is the temperature fine? Wang Donga asked. Hua Yuhao smiled and said, it's good. Okay. Donga. Yes. Do you like my butt so much? You've cleaned it 6 times. What? Wang Donga's face turned red, and she quickly put the towel away before covering him with the blanket. Donga. Seeing Wang Donga's embarrassed look, Hua Yuhao couldn't help but call her. Yes. Wang Donga lowered her head, and her face turned even redder. Hua Yuhao said, I want to take my medicine. I'm a little hungry. Okay. Wang Donga rushed to get the medicine bottle. She placed a pill into her mouth. However, she saw Hua Yuhao's burning eyes when she lifted her head to look at him. Hua Yuhao was smiling as he looked at her. His eyes were filled with a comforted look. When he saw that Wang Donga was like a young lady cleaning up the room and waiting on him, he was touched. This was the perfect life in his heart. A family and a wife that loved him. He might even have a few children in the future. As for his wife, one was enough. He couldn't be like the White Tiger Duke. If not for the White Tiger Duke, his mother wouldn't have suffered. If you still don't feed me, you'll swallow everything. Hua Yuhao was amused as he looked at Wang Donga. Wang Donga shut her eyes, and her face turned red. She moved her lips towards Hua Yuhao's mouth and transferred the medicinal fluid. However, the tip of her tongue was sensitive. When she touched Hua Yuhao's tongue, she was evidently trying to avoid it. Hua Yuhao sucked with his mouth, and his tongue wrapped around Wang Donga's. Wang Donga's eyes widened. Hoo. Hua Yuhao didn't stop sucking. He was sucking gently. Wang Donga rushed to shut her eyes again. She didn't dare to struggle, as she was afraid of hurting him. They only stopped kissing after their breathing got a little fast. When Wang Donga sat straight, her nose was already panting. She looked at Hua Yuhao shyly. You are so naughty. Your tongue can move. This means you can swallow your medicine on your own. You can consume it yourself next time. Hua Yuhao chortled. That's not right. You agreed to feed me like this. You can't go back on your word. Wang Donga snorted. I'll help you clean your body. After helping Hua Yuhao change his clothes, Wang Donga helped to massage his muscles. As she rubbed his muscles, Wang Donga asked, Yuhao, where did you find out about my internal injury? Hua Yuhao was a little annoyed. Choa is such a blabbermouth. She shouldn't have told you. Donga, I'll follow you back to the Clear Sky sect when my injury heals. I don't know if the yearning heartbroken grass can work on your injury. It's better to let Uncle Niu Tian and Taitan look after it. Wang Donga was doubtful as she looked at Hua Yuhao. What's going on? Who told you about my internal injury? Hua Yuhao shook his head and smiled. Don't ask me. I've already plucked the yearning heartbroken grass. Isn't everything fine now? Fine. Wang Donga was confused. Her tears were about to flow again as she looked at Hua Yuhao. Hua Yuhao panicked. Donga, don't cry. Don't worry, I'll get well. I must get well for you. In fact, I wasn't seriously injured this time, right? His mind wasn't very clear, as he just woken up. He had to watch his words even if he wanted to weave a lie. Wang Donga bit her lower lip. Stop talking. I know everything. Wang Choa told me everything. In fact, I know even if you don't tell me. Was it the pouch? Hua Yuhao didn't make a sound. Wang Donga's lips twisted slightly, and she clenched her fist. Eldest uncle. Second uncle. The two of you. Hua Yuhao felt something wrong with the atmosphere, and hurriedly said, Donga, don't be mistaken. The two of them are doing this for your own good. Not anyone can pluck the yearning heartbroken grass. Only I can do so. It's only right that I went. It's fine as long as you are okay. All right. Wang Donga relaxed and didn't say anything else. She smiled and said, they are my uncles. Why would I blame them? All right, you should talk less since you just woke up. Go ahead and rest. I still haven't informed everyone that you're awake. Hua Yuhao said, oh. Then you should go and tell eldest senior. They are busy with their cultivation, so don't ask them to come over. I can't do anything anyway since I just woke up. Let me recover first. All right. That's also my intention. It's better not to let anyone disturb you. Lie down first. I'll go and wash your clothes. Okay. It's been tough on you, Donga. Wang Donga shook her head. It's what I should be doing. Shut your eyes and rest. As she spoke, she took the basin filled with Hua Yuhao's dirty clothes and went to the bathroom. She closed the bathroom door and couldn't control her emotions anymore. She clenched her fists tightly, and her face turned red from her anger and pain. Eldest uncle, second uncle, why did the two of you do such a thing to Yuhao? Wasn't the test at Clear Sky Peak enough? Wang Donga was intelligent. Even though Hua Yuhao didn't say anything, she could guess that it was because of the pouch. Even if Hua Yuhao had needed to pluck the yearning heartbroken grass, her uncles should have followed him, given their cultivations. After hearing Wang Choa's recounting of events, She knew that the setting sun forest was very dangerous. Before even seeing the yearning heartbroken grass, Hua Yuhao had already met with danger several times. Hua Yuhao wasn't stupid. Wang Donga knew that he would have known that it was a test. However, this test had been too difficult. What would she have done if Hua Yuhao didn't make it out alive? She took a deep breath and looked at herself in the mirror. She muttered to herself, "From today onward, I'm no longer the young mistress of the Clear Sky sect. I'm Hua Yuhao's wife. I'll repay Hua Yuhao for everything that he's done for me with my life." After she finished speaking, her facial expression started to calm down. However, she still looked a little cold. "Eldest uncle, second uncle, I'll deal with the two of you when I return." Two manly guys who were drinking shuddered at the same moment. They even almost spilled their wine. Hua Yuhao was feeling very calm now. Although his body was very weak, he was very happy now. He was also feeling very calm. He was very satisfied to be alive and able to see Wang Donga again. He was also satisfied to pass her the yearning heartbroken grass. At least he was still alive. "I will get well." Hua Yuhao shut his eyes, and a figure slowly appeared in his mind. It was someone who cut a sad figure. Choa, how did she save me? I clearly felt that I was going to die then. His doubts and the ravishing figure caused him to open his eyes. He sighed. Hua Yuhao knew that he owed Wang Choa another favor. Without her, he couldn't have survived. It's just that he didn't know what method she had used to save him. She saved his life, and it wasn't the first time. "Choa, how am I supposed to return this favor?" Hua Yuhao took in a deep breath and felt an intense pain coming from his chest. To prevent Wang Donga from worrying, he stopped himself from shouting. He relaxed his body, and his pain slowly lessened. Hua Yuhao focused and inspected his own body. When he did, he was stunned. He couldn't help but laugh bitterly. "Is this really my body?" His body wasn't even in a bad condition. It was messy. His passageways were messed up. They were like wool that had formed knots again after being unfurled. The tips couldn't be found at all. He didn't use his soul power to resist the blazing sunspring water. His throat, windpipe and even internal organs were scorched. With the help of a weird force, his burnt organs had recovered. However, the recovery process became very messy because he didn't guide it. His organs were stuck together, and his passageways were jumbled up. Different energies were also present in these passageways. There was the heat from the blazing sunspring water, his own soul power and the origin energy that the Snow Empress had brought in. It was messy. On the surface, he seemed fine. However, he had only staved off death. The mystical force had protected his important organs so that the various energies within him wouldn't conflict. Otherwise, he would have died many times over. This was terrible. Even though Hua Yuhao's state of mind was still stable, he could only laugh bitterly to himself now. It was precisely because his condition was so messy that Elder Zhuang didn't dare to treat him. With his current condition, the various forms of energies, the mystical force protecting him and the life aura brought about his life's gold achieved a delicate balance. This ensured his survival. If he tried to do anything, he might endanger himself. Treatment might instead put his life at risk. Elder Zhuang had already communicated with Elder Xian in secret. Unless a miracle happened, Hua Yuhao would be disabled. Even if he could survive, it would be difficult for him to stand up again. As long as this delicate balance was maintained, his life would only end when the mystical force disappeared. Only Elder Zhuang and Elder Xian knew about this. Elder Xian couldn't bear to tell the rest of Shrek's 7 monsters. Moreover, Elder Xian didn't believe Hua Yuhao would collapse just like this. Hua Yuhao was always one to create miracles. What should he do? After laughing bitterly to himself, Hua Yuhao thought of something. Just like Elder Xian believed, he wasn't one to bow down to fate. Hua Yuhao could also sense the balance in his body. In fact, he was even clearer than Elder Zhuang about his own body's condition. He had the Ice Empress, the Snow Empress and the Sky Dream Iceworm's strength inside his body, and the origin energy of ultimate ice compressed into his soul bones. There was also the portion of energy sucked away by the Snow Lady. He would be doomed if everything blew apart. After pondering for a moment, Hua Yuhao straightened out his thoughts. First, he told himself not to panic. He couldn't rush to succeed. Despite the fact that he had risked everything to help Wang Donga obtain the yearning heartbroken grass, he valued his life like all human beings, particularly since he could only make Donga happy if he lived. A stable mental state allowed Hua Yuhao to calm down. He examined his body once more, and quickly discovered a source of hope. That's right, at this moment, his body was completely chaotic. Even the passageways in his hands were all tangled up, and he could not move a single finger. However, there was still one place that remained intact in him. That was his brain. In other words, despite his poor physical state, his mental state was still perfectly intact. Furthermore, after he used the full moon piercing autumn dew, the quality of his mental state had changed too. His spirit eyes appeared to be evolving once more. All these were exceptional accomplishments. In other words, while Hu Yuhao's cultivation may have retarded, and he did not dare to use his own soul power as much, his spirit eyes remained the same, and his spiritual see had not changed. In fact, it could be said to have become stronger. His concrete immaterial realm was further stabilized by his love for donga. This allowed his spirit to ascend to the next level, and he even possessed a unique move where his spiritual power merged with his soul power, the goddess of light. This was his advantage right now. His spiritual power had awakened within him, and was on the verge of recovery. It remained vibrant. Supported by his spiritual power, he used his spiritual detection and the purple demon eyes of his mustard seed domain to sense every change in his body. With his powerful spiritual power as his shield, he could try and heal himself. His spiritual power was another form of energy. It was possible for him to use his spiritual power to safeguard his passageways. After he cleared his mind, Hu Yuhao did not panic. There was no point in panicking. He had to wait for his recovery to reach its peak before he could do anything. At the same time, as he woke up, the functions of his body started to recover too. Like this, the power of the life gold could be felt once again. Its powerful life energy allowed him to continue possessing a powerful life energy. No matter how his recovery went, it would become easier. After Bei and the others heard that Hu Yuhao had woken up, they all came to visit him. Elder Xian came too. However, Elder Xian instructed that no one would be allowed to disturb Hu Yuhao. Hence, everyone could only visit him once a week. His recovery would be completely managed by Wang donga. Hu Yuhao lay there for 3 days. In these 3 days, he did nothing. He quietly enjoyed Wang donga's care. Indeed, it was a form of enjoyment. While his body could not move and his insides were all messed up, he could look at Wang donga take care of him every day. This filled him with an unspeakable warmth, particularly at night, when Wang donga, blushing, climbed into bed next to him to sleep wearing only her underwear. This made his spiritual power recover extremely quickly. Perhaps this was the power of love. Of course, this could also be due to his goddess of light's soul-spirit fusion skill. Hu Yuhao did not tell Wang donga the truth. He just said that he needed some time to recover. This was good too, because Wang donga did not probe or ask him any more questions. All she did was care for him tirelessly. She did not want to put any pressure on him. To her, no matter what became of Hu Yuhao in the future, no matter whether he could recover or not, she would never leave him. Dawn, 3 days later. He opened his eyes, and in the depths of his twin pupils, a purple light flashed. Everything around him became much clearer, and with each thought that passed through his mind, he felt as if the entire sea god's island was within his mental grasp. It turned out that everything was not as bad as he had thought. When she felt the slight change in Hu Yuhao, Wang donga immediately roused herself. She sat up hurriedly and asked anxiously, "Yuhao, are you fine?" Hu Yuhao smiled at her and asked, "Do I look fine?" "Donga, close your eyes." "Hey." Wang donga looked at him suspiciously. Under his insistence, she closed her eyes. Her long eyelashes lightly touched the bottoms of her eyes, making her irresistibly alluring. In the next instant, Wang donga saw it too. To her shock, she realized that she was looking at the entire sea god's island as if it were a 3D model. She could even see the colors of the island, as if she was a pair of eyes in the sky gazing down on the island. No, she was not just gazing down. She could see every small detail of the island. The only thing that she could not see clearly was the area around the sea god's pavilion, which seemed to be protected by a layer of golden light. That had to be the power of the golden tree. Was this spiritual detection sharing? Yuhao's spiritual detection sharing? Wang donga opened her eyes suddenly. With wide eyes, she looked at Hu Yuhao and said, her voice trembling, "Yuhao, you." Hu Yuhao looked at her and said, "I said that I'm fine. Your husband is like an indestructible cockroach. This is the result of 3 days of hard work. Afterward, everything will become better. Hey, I can still do this." Wang donga watched as Hu Yuhao's eyes turned bright purple. To others, this might have been slightly unsettling. However, that was not the case for Wang donga. At that moment, there was only excitement and hope in her heart. She could finally see a hope of recovery for him. Elder Xian drank from a gourd in his room. Ever since he became the master of the sea god's pavilion, he could not be as degenerate as before. After all, he represented the highest level of Shrek Academy. However, he still liked his life of holding a gourd in one hand and a chicken drumstick in the other. However, he could now only do it within the confines of his room. However, no matter how much fine wine he drank these past few days, his mood could not get better. Hu Yuhao, what has happened to you? How can I answer to Elder Mu after I die? This child, really? Elder Xian could not voice his discontent in public. After all, he had done what he did to save the person he loved. He did not know if he would have the courage to do so himself. At this point, Elder Xian's dusky eyes narrowed. To him, it was as if the entire room had become brighter. "Who's there?" Elder Xian asked in a low voice. A powerful energy pulsed from his body. "Elder Xian, it's me," a clear voice replied. Instantly, Elder Xian felt a warm spirit appear in his room. It did not dare to approach him, but instead stopped at his door. Then, a thin layer of purple started to spread and turned into a smiling face, which looked at him. Hey, this is... Elder Shen looked at the smiling face in shock. Yu Hao? How did you do this? Of course, who could the face be other than Hu Yu Hao? Hu Yu Hao smiled slightly and said, while my body is weak, I used some herbs that helped to increase my spiritual power when I was helping Donga find her yearning heartbroken grass. They allowed my spiritual power to increase exponentially. It is like my spiritual eyes has undergone a second evolution. This has allowed my spiritual power to reach the concrete immaterial realm, and thus, I can communicate with you from afar. This is a manifestation of my spiritual power. While I'm not yet adept at wielding it, I'm sure time will better it. Elder Shen looked at him dumbfounded and asked, how's your body? Your spiritual power can do this. Hu Yu Hao chortled and said, don't worry. I'll get better. Elder Shen chucked his gourd to the side and said, I'll head over right now. As he said that, he flew out of the door. In the blink of an eye, he was outside Hu Yu Hao's room. When he looked at Elder Shen, who was charging toward his room with a face of shock, Hu Yu Hao smiled happily. His successful experimentation told him that his spiritual power had truly reached a new level. It was no longer purely spiritual like before. While it was still metaphysical, and could not attack like his soul power, he could do many things that he could not before. For example, his spiritual detection could be used for communication like what he had just done with Elder Shen. At the same time, he felt that his spiritual detection's range was not bad. The Sea God's Island was not too big, but its diameter was at least 1 kilometer. He could already see everything on the island, as well as parts of Sea God's Lake. Through his spiritual detection sharing, he originally could only use it to instruct others. Now, he could connect directly with the spiritual power of another person. Then, he could communicate intentions with the other party. Not only did this fulfill his role as a control-type soul master, but he could also seek others' opinions. While his body could not move, he could easily talk to anyone on Sea God's Island. Under his body's present condition, this was a piece of excellent news. With the recovery of his spiritual power, Hu Yu Hao became clearer about the condition of his body. He was not afraid that he would not recover. Since he was alive, there must be a reason for it. With spiritual power, while he could not use it to attack anything in the world around him, he could use it to fuse with his soul power inside him and achieve terrifying results. This was an extremely intricate scalpel. Hu Yu Hao understood that the only way to heal himself was through himself. Your spiritual power, Yu Hao? Elder Shen looked at him with an indescribable expression in his eyes. As a Class 98 Transcendent Doluor who was only a step away from becoming an Ultimate Doluor, Elder Shen could do everything that Hu Yu Hao had just done. While he was not a spirit-type soul master, he could also force his spiritual power to take a concrete shape. However, he could not let the manifestation of his spiritual power leave his field of view. If he did, he would lose control over it. In terms of spiritual power, Hu Yu Hao could not compare to Elder Shen. However, in terms of control of his spiritual power, as well as the quality of his spiritual power, Hu Yu Hao had already surpassed him. While he did not know how powerful Hu Yu Hao's spiritual power would be if he used it for offense, he knew that Hu Yu Hao was not permanently crippled. Furthermore, his spiritual power was still increasing. Hu Yu Hao chortled and replied, metaphysical, it has more or less stabilized. Elder Shen asked him immediately, what about your spirit eyes? Have they improved, too? Hu Yu Hao nodded. Elder Shen mumbled to himself, second awakening, this is the second awakening indeed. Your spiritual power could soon be the strongest on the entire continent. While some in the body sect have experienced a second awakening too, I can be sure that at your level, no one is more powerful than you. This is excellent. How are your wounds? Hu Yu Hao said, my wounds are still problematic. However, I'm confident. For the academy, for the Tang sect, for Donga and I'll do my best to recover. Elder Shen nodded and said seriously, don't rush it. Hu Yu Hao chortled and said, I won't, don't worry. With Donga accompanying me, I'm in no rush at all. Wang Donga gripped his hand lightly and smiled. She wished to take care of him forever. After this incident, their mindset toward their relationship had experienced a huge change. Their understanding of love way surpassed that of their peers. Elder Shen said, how about this? You use your spiritual power to come up with a healing plan for yourself. Elder Zhuang and I will monitor you as you heal yourself. In case something happens, we can at least keep you alive. This will give you a free hand in your own recuperation. Okay, Hu Yu Hao accepted the offer readily. With 2 Transcendent Doluor helping his recovery, it would naturally be a lot safer. His condition was complex indeed. Elder Shen thought for a while, and then said, furthermore, don't tell anyone about the second evolution of your body soul. For now, don't even tell the other members of the Shrek's 7 monsters. Is there a need for this secrecy? Hu Yu Hao asked. Elder Shen's mouth twitched as he said, this is a secret weapon. Furthermore, after you have recovered, we need to talk about your punishment. Hu Yu Hao was stunned. With a bitter expression, he said, there's punishment. Elder Shen said angrily, of course. If everyone behaved as recklessly as you, without a care for the rules, how could we run the academy? I'm informing you right now that you have been expelled from the Sea God's Pavilion. You can make up for your wrong with deeds of merit, and perhaps we'll consider reinstituting you as a member of the Sea God's Pavilion. Furthermore, the rewards from your future research into spirits have been cancelled. If you die outside, how can you answer to Elder Mu? You little bastard, you really piss me off. Elder Shen was angry indeed. How could he not be? Who exactly was Huo Yuhao? He was Elder Mu's designated successor as the master of the Sea God's Pavilion. He had also been trained under the Ultimate Soldier plan. However, in the face of his emotions, he had forgotten all his obligations and duties. He had risked his life to head to the setting sun forest without even informing the school. It was a miracle that he had returned alive. If Huo Yuhao had died outside, the impact on Shrek Academy would have been immeasurable. The blow would have been akin to the entire academy losing its hope for the future and direction. Huo Yuhao's face was filled with regret. He really had not been thinking straight at that point in time. Elder Shen, don't be angry. I admit that I was wrong. I'll accept whatever punishment the academy imposes on me, just don't expel me. Elder Shen snorted coldly and said, expulsion? Don't tempt me. Rest well for now. After you come up with a recovery plan, inform me immediately. Elder Zhuang and I will help you. Yes, Huo Yuhao replied respectfully. Elder Shen stomped out angrily. He only smiled slightly when he left the room. It was a weird smile as he mumbled to himself, a second awakening of the body soul and twin martial souls. Was there such a precedent on the continent? I don't think so. Records. Well done, little bastard, you almost made me die from anger. As she watched Elder Shen leave, Wang Donga's pretty eyes were apologetic. It's all because of me. Yuhao. Huo Yuhao smiled and said, what do you mean by that? It's my fault for not thinking it through. Actually, I enjoy my current life very much. I don't have to care about anything, I don't have to do anything, I don't have to cultivate. I can look at you every single day. This is a blissful life indeed. Come, my goddess of light, give me a kiss. Wang Donga could not stifle her laughter as she said, you have interesting thoughts, indeed. Lie there and don't move and come up with your recovery plan. When you're well, I'll let you kiss me. Huo Yuhao's eyes lit up as he said, as many times as I want. Wang Donga's face turned red, but when she saw his look of anticipation, she nodded and said, yes. Huo Yuhao gleefully exclaimed, great, then I shall start immediately. Don't worry, I'll be very, very careful. For my Donga, I'll get well as fast as I can. Hey, wait for me, where should I kiss? Should I kiss your face, or should I kiss your... Go away. Wang Donga blushed as she walked away. As he looked at how adorable she was, Huo Yuhao's face brimmed with joy. This was a blissful sentiment indeed. If not for the fact that he still had many things to do, it would be an awesome thing if he could just lie here and accompany Donga. After he finished with his stuff, he planned to travel the world with her. He wanted to see everything there was under the sky, eat all the tasty food there was, and have as many enjoyable experiences as possible. This was now his life's goal. With this excited mentality, Huo Yuhao started to examine his body once more. With his powerful spiritual energy, he first swept his body, and then examined it region by region. In his spiritual sea, he used his spiritual power to form a model of his body. In this model, he examined all the complicated passageways. For more serious areas, he represented them with deeper colors. For less serious areas, he used lighter colors. How complicated were the passageways of a human? In spite of Huo Yuhao's spiritual power, as well as his Sumeru and Mustard Seed Domain purple demon eyes, he still took 3 whole days to complete this task. Then, he shared the model of his body with Elder Shen and Elder Mu via spiritual sharing. When the 2 transcendent Doluor saw the complete map of Huo Yuhao's body formed using his metaphysical spiritual power, they could not help but exclaim in awe. Neither of them could control their spiritual power at Huo Yuhao's level. Then, they used a week's time to determine the condition of all of Huo Yuhao's passageways to come up with a recovery plan. They considered every tiny detail to great lengths so as to minimize errors. After 10 days of rest, Huo Yuhao's body had recovered quite a bit. The power of his life gold was fully revealed. While his injuries were still there, his body brimmed with life. His self-recovery ability was back, and had started to absorb some of the extremely cold origin energy of heaven and earth. While its speed of absorption was slow, Huo Yuhao carefully observed that there was nothing he could not do. In 2 years, all of the origin energy of heaven and earth in his body, other than that trapped in his soul bones, would be completely absorbed. Then, it would be a lot easier to heal himself. However, Huo Yuhao could not afford any delays. There were only 20 more days until the tournament. In 20 days' time, he had to recover all his battling abilities. Without Tang Ya and Bei Bei, there would be no him. One could say that the Tang sect had made him. This time, they were fighting for the Tang sect. How could Huo Yuhao miss it? While he did not say it, he was determined to recover. Only then could he head to the Sun Moon Empire with everyone else. He was not only the center of his team because of his understanding of the Sun Moon Empire, but also their hope for winning. Furthermore, if he waited a year, all of the problematic passageways in his body would have fully set. If he wanted to make a change then, it would be much more difficult. After his recovery plan was finalized, Huo Yuhao started to act. His plan was simple. He would start small before moving on to the more severe injuries. He would be in charge of the initial stages of his recovery. After a careful analysis, Huo Yuhao, Elder Shen, and Elder Mu discovered that Huo Yuhao's body could be split into 3 different conditions. Some parts of his body were intact, some parts of it were slightly injured, and some parts of it were severely messed up and badly injured. Hence, Hu Yuhao had to first heal his lighter injuries before progressing to the more serious ones. His legs and head were perfect. These 3 parts of his body were completely uninjured. His hands were slightly injured, as were the passageways in his shoulders. The most problematic part of his body was his torso. That was where the problems lay. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.